Hey everybody, here we have an Object 140 match, South Spawn on Mountain Pass. Now, as we all know, South Spawn on Mountain Pass tends to get fucked because the map is poorly balanced. That's kind of been addressed. Wargaming have removed the bushes in E4, which makes it much harder for a light tank to survive a spotting run there, but it's still a much stronger position than the southern pass. In any case, things aren't looking too good with a quick glance at XVM. Our team is more consistent, but the enemy team do have a good platoon sitting up top and some pretty strong tanks. I'm in my 140, of course, which is probably the best sort of generalist of the three Tier 10 Soviet mediums. The 430 is a better assault tank, being much better armoured and having higher DPM, while the T62 is better for protracted sort of shooting from behind cover and held down positions because it has a much harder turret. The 140 is a good balance between the two. I make it across without getting spotted or shot at. Fire a shot off just to see if I can nick anything as it's crossing the open. And then I decide, rather than playing in the hills like I normally would in something with a bit more gun depression, there's a T92 on the enemy team, so I actually don't want to be there. That's prime arty target zone right there. I sit next to the RU-251, seeing if anything's going to pop up by the rock where the spotting bush used to be. However, the enemy mediums and some TDs and heavies get down to this corner, and so I decide to begin firing at them instead. Now, the 121 is not only one of their best players, but it's also a very dangerous tank, having essentially the same gun as an IS-4. It's a very powerful medium. Unfortunately, it's getting very crowded here. Our heavies have all had the same idea, and so not only is this difficult to maneuver in, because there's heavies blocking everything, but it's also hard to pay. So after putting a shot through the 263, remembering that if you can't actually see the very narrow strip in the front that's vertical, you can always shoot the mantlet. It's actually thinner than a lot of the front armor and not as well sloped. I decide I will turn around and see what's over here. 251 scoots through the middle, and at this point I think my mission was to kill a light tank in the first 5 minutes of the match, and so between that and the clusterfuck going on in the corner, I decided that I would actually push down into the central sort of stream here and cut across to the east flank, which is something I don't often do. Unfortunately, the Waffle gets a shot into me as I cross. He scrubs a second and then dives into cover. There goes my mission, cleaning up the enemy 251. And now I can come support our TDs on this flank. Now, we do have an E3 over here, and the E3 is probably one of the most difficult things in the game to kill, even with another high-tier tank destroyer or something as well-gunned as the Centurion. However, I don't really trust our E3, so I'll come in and lend him a hand and also scoop up some damage in the process. The Tortoise is making himself an easy target, just sitting there bouncing rounds off the E3 while myself and my teammates put shots through his cupola, which is totally exposed. Now the Centurion's in a hold down position here, which is a very strong position for him. I don't want to let him keep it. I still have enough hit points to tank at least 2-3 hits from him, and he's occupied by the tank destroyers anyway. He does get a shot into me there. As you can probably tell, he is using the 20-pounder, not the L7A1. In fact, he's using the first 20-pounder, the A barrel. So he obviously hadn't unlocked the B barrel yet. And that's what I mean about, if you have the 20-pounder on the Centurion, Tier 9 and 10 mediums will not be afraid to push you. If they're scared of getting hit for 390 damage and penned no matter what, they will be scared. Narrowly get away with that there. The T92 was probably just about to shotgun me. Hesitation nearly got me killed. It often does. And even though we started with the disadvantageous spawn, it looks like our team's managed to make the most of it, and the majority of the enemy team has actually allowed themselves to get tunnel vision down on that southwest corner. So while they're desperately peeking, poking around the corner, trying to fight our heavy tanks, all our tank destroyers and mediums have actually scooted around the far side of the map and are now behind them. Now that these two have been paying attention to the map, at least somewhat, and have turned around to try and delay us. 1-2-1 misses. Now I know I'm probably going to get killed here any moment now, especially if I bounce shots like that. But at this point I've already pretty much contributed as much as I'm likely to. Anything I get now is a bonus, really. It's pretty likely we're going to win this, and so I'm happy to take what I've got. I get one final shot to the 1-2-1, and he finishes me. If ever there was an example of why you need actual map awareness, this is it. You can't let yourself get caught up in a desperate engagement in some corner of the map if the enemy team scoot around the edge. I mean, yes, I've said in previous videos it's important to hold certain locations, and without them you will lose the game, but it's also important to realize that you can't overcommit on one flank and expect it to end well, because you just give the enemy freedom of movement over the rest of the map. They'll find a way to flank you. It's understandable for some of the less mobile tanks. Once they get into that position and begin fighting, they can't really get themselves out of it. But, I mean, they had fast heavies and mediums down there that really should have turned around as soon as they saw the push coming up the ice road, and the fact that they didn't was basically what allowed us to roll in behind them like that and pincer them on two sides. So it ended up being a pretty passable game. I wasn't really expecting much from it, but I was pleasantly surprised, which is always nice. And getting the mission out of it was a bonus. In fact, I was able to get 10 of the 15 medium tank missions for the T-28 concept in a single session, which I was really, really happy with. The downside to that now being that I have to set a higher tier tank on fire in a medium tank, and wouldn't you know it, West is normally nothing but tier 10s all the time, so no matter what tank you play, you'll almost always be bottom tier. Because, you know, shitters get a tier 10 and they just never want to play anything else ever again, so the matchmaking queue is really biased towards high tiers. The funny thing is, I tried queuing up in tiers 6, 7, 8, and 9, and could not get a game where there were higher tier tanks. I had about somewhere between 10 and 15 matches in a row, I think, where I was top tier. In tiers 6, 7, 8, and 9, which is just unheard of. Even on East, that was unheard of, and East has a much better matchmaking queue because it has more players. So that was really amazing, and it's still happening. I played earlier this morning, of course, as of time of recording, and the same thing, just top tier every game. Could not get higher tier tanks to try and burn down. So this one will probably take me a while, but at least I knocked over 10 of the 15 in a hurry. Anyway, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and there are more on the way, so stick around.